We will go high. Love, grace, humility will win. And then you tell everybody to go to hell. You think that's going to work for you, Coach White? Think that's going to work for you? The reality of the situation is none of that stuff will win if it's left up to you, Stephanie White. Because you're not handling it right. You playing right into their hands. Right into their hands.
When a head coach gets booed in her own arena by her own fans, something has gone terribly wrong. When that same coach's star player appears to cover her ears during a press conference, you know there's a story that goes way beyond basketball. And when Stephen A. Smith, one of the loudest voices in American sports, demands that coach be fired immediately, you're looking at a controversy that refuses to die quietly. This is the situation Stephanie White finds herself in right now. The Indiana Fever head coach is caught in a firestorm that started with a single foul and exploded into questions about loyalty, leadership, and who she's really protecting. Because here's the thing, there's footage, there are press conferences, there are leaked recordings, and there are fans who've had enough.
One of the things I pride myself on is my relationships with players. I thought the play got called right. Thankfully, Sophie's okay. Was it egregious? Absolutely. When you have a chance to watch that over and over and over on replay, you can see that. I didn't have that in real time. The hate, the fear-mongering, the divisiveness, the stuff that's trying to hijack our league will not win. It won't win. We are united. We are connected.
Of the tense situation that the WNBA and especially you as the coach of the Indiana Fever is involved in. There are folks in Indiana at a home game booing you. You ain't the road team, you the home team, you the home coach, and they booing you. And Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark can speak up for you all they want to, as they did, and as they should have.
And Stephen A. Smith is not holding back anymore.
I've been a defender, the coach of the Fever. Get her out of there. Get her out of there. Fire her ass today. I don't want her back on that bench. Stop defending the other players. Oh, she plays hard, DJ. That's just her being her. You see Caitlin in the press conference almost cover her ears and her eyes. Defend your players. First of all, you're wrong. It was a dirty play. She's gone. But when do you ever see in like the NBA a coach not defend their own players? She hasn't done it with Caitlin.
If you've been following the WNBA this season, you know the Indiana Fever have been one of the most talked about teams in the league. And not always for the right reasons. With Caitlin Clark leading the charge, expectations were sky high. The franchise was rebuilt. The fan base exploded. The spotlight got brighter than it's ever been. But alongside the excitement came something else. Controversy. Hard fouls. Heated moments. Accusations of targeting. And through it all, one question kept coming up. Is the coach doing enough to protect her players?
The other day, for a flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham, did y'all see that? She got ejected from the game for that flagrant foul right there. And I'll be damned if that wasn't a flagrant too. She mugged her. Damn near came across like decapitating her, for crying out loud. That was definitely a hard foul. Make no mistake about it. Nobody can argue about it. You can say what you want. We know what we saw. No way around it. Dijonai Carrington foul was clearly unnecessary. It was a flagrant foul penalty too. It was absolutely positively correct call.
That question reached a breaking point after an incident involving Connecticut Sun guard Dijonai Carrington and Fever guard Sophie Cunningham. What should have been a straightforward ejection and moving on became a full-blown examination of Stephanie White's coaching philosophy, her public statements, and whether she's lost the trust of the people who matter most. This is the story of how a single play became a referendum on leadership, and why Stephen A. Smith says it's time for Stephanie White to go. Let's go back to where this all began. August 8th, Indiana Fever versus the Chicago Sky. The kind of regular season matchup that normally wouldn't make national headlines. But this wasn't a normal game. Not in 2024, Not with Caitlin Clark in the building and every possession analyzed frame by frame on social media. Late in the game, Fever guard Sophie Cunningham was on a breakaway. Fast break opportunity, easy chance to score. That's when Dijonai Carrington made contact. Not a basketball play. Not a contest at the rim. A hard foul that caught Cunningham around the head and neck area, sending her to the floor. The whistle blew immediately. Officials huddled, reviewed the footage, and delivered their verdict. Flagrant 2. Ejection. Carrington was done for the night. Now, in most cases, that would be the end of the story. Foul called. Player ejected. Everyone moves on. But cameras captured every angle, and those angles started circulating online immediately. Fans didn't just see a hard foul. They saw something they'd been seeing all season long. Fever players, especially Caitlin Clark, being hit hard, and the response never feeling strong enough. This wasn't happening in a vacuum. This was the latest chapter in a season filled with physical play, questionable calls, and a growing narrative that the Fever weren't being protected. And this time, people wanted answers. Real answers. Not coach speak. Not carefully worded explanations. They wanted someone to call it what it looked like. A dangerous, unnecessary foul that had no place in the game. The question was, would Stephanie White give them that? After the game, reporters gathered for the standard post-game press conference. Stephanie White sat at the table, microphones ready, cameras rolling, and the question came, what did you think of the Carrington foul? White's answer was measured, careful, diplomatic. She emphasized player safety, said it's always a top priority for her, mentioned her relationships with players, acknowledged that yes, watching the replay over and over, it looked egregious. But, and this is where things got complicated, she said she didn't see it that way in real time. She said the play was called correctly by the officials. She said she was glad Sophie was okay. She talked about the broader hate and divisiveness trying to hijack the league, and said it wouldn't win. She ended with a message of unity, connection, standing together. On the surface, it sounded like a coach trying to keep the bigger picture in focus, not letting one play define the narrative, keeping her team grounded. But to many people watching, it sounded like something else entirely. It sounded like a coach defending everyone except her own player. It sounded like someone more concerned with optics, with league politics, with not offending anyone, than with standing up and saying what fans and players needed to hear. And almost immediately, the backlash began. Because here's the problem. When you say I didn't see it that way in real time, but everyone else watching did see it clearly, you create a credibility gap. When you emphasize relationships with players league-wide instead of focusing on your player who just got hit in the head, you send a message, even if you don't mean to. And when your own fans start wondering whose side you're on, you've got a serious problem. That's where Stephen A. Smith came in. Stephen A. Smith doesn't do subtle. And when he saw Stephanie White's response to the Carrington foul, he didn't hold back. On ESPN's First Take, Stephen A. went off. And I mean off. He started by pointing out something nobody could deny. Indiana Fever fans were booing their own head coach. At home games. In their own building. Think about that for a second. This isn't a road game where you expect hostility. This is home. These are the people who are supposed to have your back. And they were booing. Stephen A. didn't stop there. He went further. He said Stephanie White was failing to embrace the reality of the tense situation surrounding the Fever. That she was coaching in an environment where emotions were high, where physical play against Caitlin Clark and her teammates had become a storyline, and where fans expected their coach to be a protector. Instead, he argued, White was defending opponents. He called out the pattern, the Carrington foul, previous incidents, moments where Caitlin Clark took a hit and the response felt weak. Stephen A. made the case that a coach's job, first and foremost, is to defend their players, to have their backs publicly, to send a message that you don't mess with my team without consequences. And according to Stephen A., Stephanie White wasn't doing that. Then came the moment that made headlines everywhere. Stephen A. Smith, on live television, said this: "Get her out of there. Fire her. I don't want her back on that bench." Not a subtle criticism. Not a, maybe she needs to reconsider her approach. A flat-out call for her firing. He pointed to the NBA, where coaches routinely defend their players even when they are clearly in the wrong. Where standing up for your guys is part of the culture, part of the job. And he asked, why isn't that happening in Indiana? Why is Stephanie White more worried about defending Dijonai Carrington's character than making sure Sophie Cunningham knows her coach has her back? It was a brutal takedown, and it resonated with a huge portion of the Fever fanbase who'd been feeling the exact same frustration. But here's where things get even messier. Because it wasn't just Stephen A. Smith and national media personalities criticizing Stephanie White. It was her own fans. Loudly, reports started circulating. Some on social media, some through WNBA fan communities, of a leaked recording. The details were murky, but the alleged content was explosive. According to these reports, Stephanie White was caught on audio discussing the situation in a way that contradicted her public statements. Some claimed she acknowledged the foul was dirty but said she couldn't say that publicly because of league politics and relationships. Others said the recording revealed frustration with the fan backlash and a feeling that she was being unfairly targeted. Now, here's the critical point. No verified recording has been made publicly available through official sources. No major sports outlet has authenticated such audio, but the rumor of its existence has fueled the fire. Whether real or not, the perception was set. Fans believed there was a gap between what Stephanie White said privately and what she was willing to say publicly. And in the court of public opinion, perception often matters more than reality. At the next home game, the boos came. Loud, sustained, uncomfortable. Stephanie White walked onto her own home court and was met with hostility from the people she was supposed to be leading a franchise for. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham both defended their coach publicly. They praised her leadership. They said she had their backs behind closed doors. But even that created awkward optics. Because if you watch the press conference footage, and people did, repeatedly, there are moments where Caitlin Clark looks uncomfortable. Almost like she's caught between defending her coach and acknowledging the frustration. Some observers described it as Clark covering her ears and eyes, metaphorically speaking, trying to stay out of the fray. It's a no-win situation for a player. Defend your coach and risk alienating fans. Stay silent and fuel the controversy. And that's exactly the kind of mess that happens when leadership becomes a question mark. To truly understand why this controversy exploded, you have to zoom out. Because this wasn't just about one foul. It was about a pattern. All season long, Caitlin Clark had been on the receiving end of hard fouls. Some were clean. Some were borderline. Some were clearly excessive. And every single time, the question came up, is the league doing enough to protect her? Are the officials calling it fairly? Is her coach standing up for her? Fans pointed to specific incidents. A shot to the throat, a hard screen, a flagrant foul during a playoff intensity game. Each time, Stephanie White's responses were measured, careful, politically safe. And each time, a portion of the fanbase got more frustrated. The issue wasn't whether the fouls were being called. Many were. The issue was the tone, the messaging, the feeling that the Fever were playing nice while other teams were playing physical. In sports, perception of toughness matters. Perception of protection matters. When fans see their star player taking punishment and their coach giving diplomatic answers, they start to wonder if the coach is tough enough for the moment. It's not always fair. Coaches have to navigate complex politics, media narratives, and league relationships that fans don't see. But fair or not, the expectation was clear. Protect your players. Loudly, publicly, unapologetically. And whether Stephanie White was doing that behind the scenes didn't matter if it wasn't visible. Stephen A. Smith understood that. He understood that in the modern sports media landscape, public perception is reality. And the public perception was that Stephanie White cared more about being diplomatic than being a defender. Now, there's another layer to this story that can't be ignored, even though it's uncomfortable. Some commentators and analysts suggested that the backlash against Stephanie White had undertones that went beyond basketball. There were whispers, some in the leaked recording rumors, some in social media discussions, that the controversy was being amplified by political and racial dynamics. The argument went like this. Caitlin Clark's fanbase includes a significant number of people who are new to the WNBA, some of whom don't traditionally follow women's basketball, and some of whom bring cultural and political attitudes that clash with the league's existing culture. When Stephanie White talked about hate and divisiveness trying to hijack the league, some interpreted that as a reference to those dynamics. Was she caught between defending her player and not wanting to inflame tensions that had racial or political elements? It's important to be crystal clear here. There is no verified evidence that Stephanie White made decisions based on race or politics, and suggesting that without proof is irresponsible. What is clear is that the WNBA in 2024 became a cultural flashpoint in ways that went far beyond the court, and coaches, players, and league officials found themselves navigating issues that had nothing to do with X's and O's. Stephanie White was trying to coach basketball while also managing a media firestorm that included everything from fan toxicity to social justice to identity politics. That's an impossible position. But here's the hard truth. Fair or not, she's still judged on results, on wins and losses, on whether her players feel supported, on whether the fanbase believes in her, and on those metrics, she was losing ground fast. So where does that leave the Indiana Fever and Stephanie White? As of now, she's still the head coach. The Fever front office hasn't made any public statements about her job security. No official discipline. No firing. But the noise isn't going away. Stephen A. Smith's comments resonated with a huge segment of the fanbase. Social media is flooded with debates. Some fans are calling for her firing. Others are defending her, saying she's being unfairly scapegoated. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham have both publicly supported her. That matters. Player support is critical. But player support doesn't always save a coach if the fanbase and media turn. We've seen it 100 times in professional sports. A coach loses the room, or loses the fans, or loses the narrative. And even if they are doing good work behind the scenes, perception becomes reality. The Fever are in a tough spot. They've invested in this roster. They've built around Caitlin Clark. They are trying to create a winning culture. Changing coaches midstream is risky. It sends a message of instability. It disrupts continuity. But keeping a coach who's lost the confidence of the fan base, that's risky too. And here's the uncomfortable question that nobody wants to ask out loud. Is Stephanie White being held to a different standard? Would a male coach face the same level of scrutiny for the same comments? Would a coach without the political and cultural baggage surrounding this situation be given more grace? Those are legitimate questions, and they don't have easy answers. What's undeniable is that Stephanie White is under a microscope. Every decision, every press conference, every response to a hard foul. She's coaching in an environment where one wrong word, one perceived misstep, becomes a national story. That's the reality of coaching a team with Caitlin Clark. The spotlight is blinding. The stakes are enormous. And the margin for error is razor thin. So what happens next? The Fever's season will determine a lot. If they make a deep playoff run, if Caitlin Clark continues to shine, if the team comes together and wins, a lot of this noise will quiet down. Winning fixes almost everything in sports. But if the season ends in disappointment, if the physical play continues and the responses feel inadequate, if the fanbase stays angry, then Stephanie White's job could genuinely be in jeopardy. Stephen A. Smith's comments aren't just hot takes. They are a reflection of a broader sentiment, and front offices pay attention to that. The Fever will also have to navigate the broader cultural issues. How do they manage a fan base that includes longtime WNBA supporters and brand new Caitlin Clark fans who don't always see eye to eye? How do they balance player safety with not inflaming tensions? How do they support their coach while also holding her accountable? These aren't basketball questions. They are leadership questions, organizational questions, and they are going to define the Fever's future just as much as any play on the court. One thing's for sure, Stephanie White isn't going to get the benefit of the doubt anymore. Every decision will be scrutinized. Every press conference will be analyzed. She's coaching with a target on her back. And whether that's fair or not, it's the reality. At the end of the day, this story is about more than one foul or one press conference. It's about the pressure cooker that the WNBA has become in 2024. About the expectations placed on coaches and players. About the collision of sports, media, culture, and politics. Stephanie White is caught in the middle of all of it. She's trying to coach basketball while managing storylines that have nothing to do with basketball. She's trying to protect her players while navigating league politics. She's trying to build a winning culture while the foundation keeps shifting beneath her feet. Stephen A. Smith says she's failing. A portion of the fanbase agrees. But her players are standing by her. Who's right? That depends on what you value. Optics or substance. Public statements or private support. Winning or politics. The only certainty is that the Indiana Fever are at a crossroads. And Stephanie White's ability to navigate this moment will determine not just her future, but the franchise's future too. Because in professional sports, you're only as good as your last decision. And right now, a lot of people are questioning hers. If you want to see how this situation plays out, how the Fever finish their season, and whether Stephanie White keeps her job, you're going to want to stay locked in. Because this story is far from over, and the next chapter might be the most dramatic one yet.